Fort is the school for the talented and gifted in Dallas, Texas. Schools in Arizona, Virginia, and Texas rounded out the top 5. On Wall Street today, the Dow was down 114, NASDAQ dropped 2, S&P lost 11. I'm Evan Heidenreich.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Keith Langlots. For tonight, partly cloudy, low 53. West winds gusting as high as 25. Daytime Friday, partly sunny, warming up 78. Winds gusting as high as 25 out of the west again. Now for Friday night, a slight chance of showers, partly cloudy, low 53. Southwest wind gusting as high as 25. Saturday, we start the weekend, slight chance of showers. That'll be before noon. Mostly sunny, a high 80. A south wind gusting as high as 25. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 106.5 FM at 1050 AM, the stations that leave no listener behind.
You can get paid to participate in a controlled, safe environment to study your arthritis, sleep disorders, high blood pressure, and more. But you must call now, 909-981-5321. That's 909-981-5321. Call Empire Clinical Research at 909-981-5321. If you're interested in helping advance medical research, you need to call this important phone number, a number that could invite you to participate in a paid comparison study. Are you ready for the number to Empire Clinical Research? That phone number is 981-5321. It's in the 909 area. That number again, 909-981-5321. You can help, you can make a difference, and you can get paid. But you must call this number now, 909-981-5321. You'll be helping to gather data on the forefront of clinical research. But you must call this number now, 909-981-5321. Did you get that number, 909-981-5321? Write it down and call now.
Your nut and stone fruit trees have worked hard for you all season long, and now they're ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy a little downtime. Don't let peach twig borer ruin that rest. Asana XL insecticide, now available from Valent USA Corporation, protects your trees from peach twig borer during dormancy and delayed dormancy, preparing them for the next season. Asana is formulated with a unique cottonseed oil that's rain-fast and has excellent UV stability, even under intense sunlight. That means Asana lasts longer for outstanding extended control, rain or shine. Give your trees the break they deserve from peach twig borer with a dormant or delayed dormant application of Asana. To learn more, talk to your PCA or go to valent.com/Asana. And while you're there, find out how Dipel Biological Insecticide delivers effective control of peach twig borer at bloom. Asana XL is a restricted use pesticide. Always read and follow label instructions.
When we set out to build the largest and most technologically advanced tractor in Kubota history, we had your operation in mind. That's why we focused on the hard-working details, like powerful Kubota diesel engines, smooth shifting transmission options, a heavy-duty front axle, premium cab with the latest features, and a best-in-class Kubota front loader. Introducing the all-new M7 Series, built with you in mind. We are Kubota. This is what we do.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought.
From the mountains to the desert to the oceans to all across America and back to sunny downtown San Bernardino, where we're hoping it's going to rain on Friday, we all welcome you to the Waterzone Show with Mike and Rob, and this is KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM on the dial. And as I said, I'm Rob, along with Mike, who's our special irrigation man out on the town. Mike, how are you?
I am doing great, Rob. It's wonderful being out here in Chino, California at the Inland Empire Utilities Agency Earth Day 2016.
All right. How's it going out there?
Well, it started out a little bit slow, but all of a sudden we had Girl Scouts, we had Boy Scouts, we had classes coming in, we had retired people coming over and stopping by and looking at information that was demonstrating how to convert spray systems over to drip, how to get high-efficiency spray nozzles through freesprinklernozzles.com, which, by the way, if any of you are listening in the Inland Empire Utilities Agency service area, that's what you want to do is go to that www.freesprinklernozzles.com with your water bill in hand. You qualify for 25 free high-efficiency Precision Series spray nozzles from Toro.
And that's $100. That's $100 special.
And it's just watching a couple of instructional videos to learn about the product and how to install it, and then going down to your local irrigation or landscape distributor house, which is going to be clearly identified on that freesprinklernozzles.com website. So it's really quite a good thing, and it's interesting because as the kids came by, we were giving out the coloring book that was co-sponsored by the Irrigation Association in Toro to teach youngsters the importance of water, the value of water, and have some fun making some coloring some pictures and solving some word puzzles. Those things went out. I ran out. Rob, can you believe that?
Wow. And we had thousands of them made.
Yeah, so it's it really. In fact, I kind of kick out of it because as a grandfather, I kind of look out for things that I can get for free that I can bring home to my grandson. And sure enough, there were grandparents picking up those coloring books for their grandchildren. And so it's great getting the word out about the importance and the value of water, and to have it starting at that young age. You and I have talked about the need for this water ethic to be so basic to our understanding of what's important. And, I think doing these kinds of activities helps us accomplish that goal.
Oh, absolutely. And you can also tell our audience there's also a special going on with IEUA about smart irrigation controllers.
Yes, one thing that water agencies are coming to realize that by working with a trained professional licensed contractor and having them do the installation of a smart controller at a residential home for the homeowner who has attended a basic training program is really a much better approach to saving water than just giving away controllers to homeowners. Because that's a challenge to install the new smart controller, to learn how to program it, to learn how it works, and having that contractor go out, having the water agency identify the high water users, and then helping them reduce their water footprint by giving them technology that keeps the sprinkler system off in the rain for 48 hours after that rainfall, because, Rob, that's a state law today.
Yep.
You could be fined up to $500 if your water agency decided to want to pursue that action if your sprinklers are operating within 48 hours of a rain event. So IEUA, through their leadership, are investing to get several hundred controllers per year over the next 3 years installed in those residential sites that can best use the technology to reduce their water usage and keep their landscape looking good.
And even better, it's free. So people should take advantage of that. It's a good thing. So
absolutely.
How long is the event going on till tonight over there?
Well, it goes on till 7. They've got some food trucks out here. So if you're in the neighborhood, the kids will love it. They've got a wetlands, kind of a pathway through wetlands. They've got demonstration sites. They have participants that are demonstrating different technology, different plant material. You get some free plants. You pick up free mulch. If you want some mulch for your garden, the Inland Empire Utilities Agency at the corner of Kimball and El Prado Road in Chino is where you should come pick up your free mulch.
Yep. Well, there's another event going on tomorrow that I'm going to be doing, and it's that time of year again when Western Municipal Water District invites all of you to Earth Day with them on their 9th annual Earth Night in the Garden event, which is tomorrow on April 22nd. And the event's going to be at 450 East Alessandro Boulevard in Riverside, and it's open to the public from 3 to 7, almost like yours is. The event is free. Again, another free event, so bring your family and friends. Come learn about water use efficiency from real water experts, and some cool-looking solar boats that are built by local high school students for you to look at. And they can be part of the hourly Ladybug releases. And the kids can personally meet Mother Nature and Pam the Ladybug, who we know personally, and she's a really nice lady. There's lots of activities for the whole family, including special craft exhibits, science experiments, it's alive, and water models, and even creepy crawler critters for the kids, like snakes and bugs. Anyway, kids can even get their face painted all for free. So Western Municipal Water District hopes that everybody can make it. Go to celebrate Earth Night in the Garden with them and have a great time. So if you can't make it there by 7 tonight, where Mike is, come over tomorrow and you can meet us, and we can answer questions and tell you the latest in technologies that's available for you. So a lot going on this month because it's Earth Month, and it's pretty exciting. Also exciting, we have a neat guest. Let me get out the phone numbers just as well for everybody. If you're calling in locally to speak to us, it's 909-888-5222. If it's long distance outside of the 909 area, please dial 888-909-1050. And Mike and I caught up with a gentleman who's the CEO of a company called IDE Technologies, and they're the ones who designed and built and maintain the desalination plant in Carlsbad for the San Diego area. And it's a very interesting company, and Mike and I learned a lot of stuff that we didn't even know, and we think we know a lot, but this guy was pretty intuitive to telling us about desal plants and what they've done. So we want to bring Mr. Mark Lambert on the show. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little about IDE Technologies, their history, what it stands for, and give us our customers and visitors a little information about your background?
Certainly. IDE is currently celebrating its 50th year in existence. It's an Israeli company, as I'm sure your audience knows. IDE stands for Israeli Desalination Engineering. It was founded on the principle that we would like to learn how to or find technologies and be able to exploit the sea to produce fresh drinking water, safe drinking water, not necessarily for the state of Israel, but from a global perspective. So 50 years ago, this was an initiative that was put forth by the Israeli government, and it was funded as, I won't say an R&D project, but as a development program. And obviously it's been very successful. During our 50-year history, we've done some 400 desalination plants of both types. We can talk about those in a bit, in about 40 countries, including some of the very, very largest desalination plants on the planet.
Wow. That's pretty amazing when you think about this little tiny country in the Middle East that is kind of fairly independent, given the surrounding countries, to be able to invest from its GDP into this kind of technology for the future. What would you say inspired that perspective or that valuing of availability of drinking water for the future?
It's a great question, and it's an incredible story, and probably much more history in there than meets the eye. But if we just go back a short 10-year period ago, about a decade ago, Israel was in a very, very severe drought, very similar to what we are in the southwest here of the United States, and particularly California, and had developed this know-how and capability and embarked on a program to essentially become water independent, not ever have to rely on any sort of imported water, and kind of be in control of their own water supply, if you will. And over the last decade, there have been 4 significant-sized desalination plants that have been built in Israel. 3 of them are currently owned and operated by IDE, and 1 is owned and operated by the national water company. But what resulted was through desalination alone, the country of Israel, state of Israel, has been able to produce about 70% of all the drinking water comes from desalination. And what's even more surprising is that they recycle 85% of all wastewater. So collectively, between the two, a very large component of desalination and a very large component of recycle and reuse of water, they virtually are water independent. And sometimes people, if you get into a conversation, people will say, I don't care if it rains again in the state of Israel.
I'm sure the farmers probably might not agree with that, but that is amazing history of investing in resources, especially when you look at other countries within that region, and I can't think, even in the U.S., we don't have that kind of technological base for desalination.
We don't.
Yeah.
So the other, just a little side note, you mentioned agriculture, but on the agriculture side, there are, again, and maybe the other focus of your question, and maybe we should definitely highlight, is that Israel is a country of innovation. Everything that's done there is very innovative, very forward-thinking, very progressive, and very aggressive, I should say, in terms of getting things close to market and ready for market. So whether it's IT technology or communications technology or medical technology, and certainly in the water sector, they've been very expert, let's say. I like to say a lot that, Israel didn't invent desalination, but they've perfected it. And so the rollout of all these water resource, water use, water measurement, monitoring, and metering technologies, from the state of Israel is incredible. It's touched everywhere on the planet. It's very, very broad reach. It incorporates lots of different ways to think about policy, technology, the integration of technology into society, and it touches everything, from agriculture to, very, very high use water. And we just haven't gotten there here in the United States. The mindset historically here has been that water is free or essentially free. And I speak a lot about the price of water and the value of water, that if we would ever get to a situation where we priced water according to its value, we probably wouldn't have the gap that we're trying to resolve here these last few years with the drought in California and in the foreseeable future.
Well, I know the average daily consumption per capita in Israel is slightly over 26 gallons a day compared to what you see around the world and even in the United States.
Well, we in California back in 2005, the baseline per capita consumption was at 192 gallons per day per person. And
right.
We after this almost reaching 25% reduction in the 2015 rain year, we actually, at least by the accounting method used by the state of California, reduced that per capita consumption down by 23.7 or 9%, I think, almost 24%. Yep. But we're still hovering around that 100 gallons per day per person. So that's a huge, still a huge difference. And we think we're pretty progressive. Like in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I think they're down to about 55 gallons per day per person. And so, wow, 26 is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is incredible, but you do have to give credit for the reduction. I mean, I talk about the San Diego County Water Authority, which is where the Carlsbad desal plant is in the center of that. The San Diego County Water Authority had a great, I quote them a lot about their vision and their what's the word I'm looking for? They put together this concept of water portfolio, a balanced water portfolio, which has multiple moving parts inside of it. But one of the things clearly is conservation, and most of the member agencies in Southern California have done exactly as you say. They've reduced their water consumption by 25% or more. And that's a pretty dramatic thing for people here in Southern California to be able to do. But the other pieces of the pie of the portfolio include recycle and reuse of water. We currently, in the U.S. in general, only recycle about 5% of all of our water. as I believe you probably know. And, the goal is to increase that to some reasonable number. The city of San Diego has a goal to get to 30% recycle by, I think it's 2025. And then the third component of this is the development of new water resources. And it doesn't take, if you live in Southern California, it doesn't take long to look around and see that there are no new places for us to build a dam. And even if we did, it's not going to rain to fill up the dam. So what is meant by new development of new water resources, you must, take a look at the Pacific Ocean. And the Pacific Ocean is right here off of our coastline. And so desalination became a significant part of the strategic portfolio for the San Diego County Water Authority, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, when they started to contemplate this. And so it's a pretty interesting way to look at, the water pie, if you will, that, you have all the different parts. And a lot of people will say, well, we should focus on recycling and reuse, and the answer is yes. And we should focus on conservation, and the answer is yes. And we should look at desalination, and the answer is yes. And it's all the above. We have to continue to change, adopt all the technologies that are available and change the behaviors in order to get to, if the goal is to get to water independence, there's many different pieces of the mechanism that have to move you forward to get there.
I know the process for San Diego Carlsbad facility was almost 17 years plus, but is that typical in other countries, or just U.S. has lots of regulations and you have to go through a whole red tape to get these things on track?
Yeah, really good question. And it's probably a little unfair to burden the project with the 17 years. It is true, but at first it was contemplated by the city of Carlsbad, California, wanted to host the desalination plant and, thought about the mechanisms of how it could put together a 50 million gallon a day desal plant. This goes way back to the 17 or 18 years or so ago. Over time, it became apparent that the water need was countywide and that it might make more sense for one of the water agencies to host the desalination plant. And so the San Diego County Water Authority stepped up sort of in the middle of the process. And then simultaneously, we really didn't have any track record or history here in the U.S. of any significant size desalination plants, with the exception of Tampa Bay, but there really wasn't any, it really wasn't deployed as widely as it has been in other countries. And so it took, and of course we picked the state of California to do it first in, which is, kind of a regulatory driven mindset and a tough place to do business in the first place. And so, there a lot of permitting, a lot of discussion, a lot of open forums with public outreach, citizens, communities, multiple water purchase agreements that had to be negotiated if the San Diego County Water Authority was going to host the plant, and the member agencies had to agree to buy the water. And finally, about just 4 years ago now, it seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't, the construction started, and it was only a 33-month construction timetable. And the plant began producing water in December of 2015, so about 4 or 5 months ago now, and it's fully operational as we speak.
Oh, I've got to just ask, does IDE operate that desal plant in Carlsbad, or have they just trained the operators?
Yes, we do. So the role of IDE is, and maybe we dive in a little bit into this particular project. The project itself was developed by Poseidon Resources. They were the host, if you will, or the owner of the project, and they, the first step in their process, if you will, was to secure the land that's co-located next to the power plant. And we can come back to that in a moment. So under the Poseidon umbrella agreement, with a tentative water purchase agreement in place with the Water Authority, Poseidon was able to execute 2 different forms of contracts. One was the engineering, procurement, and construction phase, and the other was the O&M phase. IDE's role is in both. We played the role of the engineer in the procurement process for all of the process equipment. And then we partnered with a company called Kiewit, who constructed the plant. And then now that the plant's constructed, IDE now enters into its agreement with Poseidon to operate the plant for 30 years. So long-winded way of answering your question, but we operate the plant for 30 years. It's IDE employees based on our experience of, as I mentioned, all the 400 desalination plants that we've operated around the globe. So we brought all that expertise here to bear on the Carlsbad desalination plant.
I understand it brought like 1.5 million hours of work to Carlsbad, Vista, San Marcos, all those areas, supported like 2,500 jobs, and infused about $350 million to the economy. So
that's the data that is public, and that data is true, and it's up on the website on the Poseidon. So it's been a very economically beneficial project. Now, it represents about 10% of the water supply for San Diego County. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a significant portion, which again is uninterruptible, and it's drought-proof. And, you know, I'm working with some other cities in the state at the moment, and they're looking at what their state water project allocation of water is going to be. And on average, I would say that most cities up and down the Central Coast or even into Southern California are getting on the order of 15 to 25% of their requested allocation, meaning they're not getting 75 or 85% of what they need. And so, you know, they're looking for alternative sources of water supply. And so, again, go back to San Diego County's leadership here to be able to say that we can get a piece of that supply chain to be uninterruptible and drought resilient is pretty striking.
Now, I'm going to put my hat on as Joe consumer or just the average person thinking, oh my goodness, no, the one challenge with desal plants is that they increase significantly the heat of the shore water. And I'm sure over the last 20, 30 years, there's been quite a lot of advancements, technologically speaking, to perhaps address that issue. Can you comment on that concern that, you know, maybe those that aren't very knowledgeable about really where the technology is today, how could you educate those folks?
Sure. There's really no heat added to the process. It is there's two types of desalination. What is here in Carlsbad is a technology called reverse osmosis. It's a simple pre-treatment process that moves seawater through a multimedia type filtration methodology. It's sand and gravel and anthracite pre-filters, typical of any surface water treatment plant. Then the water goes through the reverse osmosis process where the salt is removed. And as part of that process, that's pressure driven, so pumps drive the power, if you will, to push the water through the membranes. And then there's a simple repotabilization process. We add some minerals back to the water, primarily to support the distribution network. And so, to the point about the heat, this particular plant and many plants around the world are co-located next to a power plant. There's an NRG power plant here that is close by the sea, and the power plant uses seawater for cooling. And so if you looked at an aerial view, and your listeners could Google the Carlsbad desal plant, there would be an aerial view of the lagoon and the power plant, and you could see where the intake line is, where they take in cooling water on a daily basis. In fact, about 300 million gallons a day of seawater pass through this power plant for cooling. On the discharge side of that cooling, we take a portion of that water and bring it a little ways away, and right next door, adjacent to the power plant, is the desal plant. So we bring that water into the desal plant, desalinate the water, and put the brine, the salty byproduct of the RO process, back into that cooling water loop. No increase in temperature, and there is a little bit of a salinity increase, but that gets diluted immediately with the very, very large volumes of water that are traveling through the desal plant, or through the power plant, I should say.
Wow.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess where I'm going here is
I did not realize, nor do I think most our listeners or consumers realize that adjacency to a power plant using the discharge water from the cooling of the power plant was used as input to the desal. That's pretty cool.
Pretty smart.
Now, has IDE been contacted by any other coastal communities in California now that the information about the Carlsbad plant is there?
In fact, in November of last year, we were successful in being awarded the Santa Barbara desalination project, That's quite a unique project, different than Carlsbad. It's unique in that it's a reactivation of an old desalination plant that they put there in the early 90s and then mothballed it, and now are in a drought condition and need the water badly. And so they put out a public procurement process to identify a partner to reactivate. We'll call it rebuild it. So we are in the process of doing that, and this is a very, very aggressive timetable, if you will. It was awarded last year in sort of August, September time, or maybe October time, and the project will be completed and producing water by November of this year, so about a 13-month time frame.
Wow.
Again, it's significantly smaller, but it's a pretty impressive schedule. We're on schedule, I should say. We're obviously more than halfway through the project, and we'll be delivering water as needed. And the uniqueness of this particular plant is that they wanted to have the ability to expand the plant over time. So we're using what we call a modular solution, where we put a certain amount of water. It turns out to be 3,000 acre-feet a year of water capability today. And then they have the option to expand that up to 7,000 or 10,000 acre-feet over time. And so, and to answer your question about others, there is a project in the works up in Monterey County, the Monterey Bay Desalination Project, which is hosted by American Water. That project is moving forward. The Huntington Beach project is in planning stage and about to go for its coastal commission hearing and get a coastal commission permit. That would be a plant of similar size to Carlsbad. And that, I don't quote a time frame for it because I'm not sure exactly how that will lay out and phase out. And then there are a handful of other communities up and down the coast, small and large, that are contemplating desalination as a portion of their water supply portfolio.
A lot of people, when they hear the word desal plant, they jump on a bandwagon about energy use and how these things are never efficient or carbon neutral. And you guys have brought a lot of success to that area, both in the SOREC and your others, but also the one in Carlsbad. Can you tell our listeners a little about that?
Yes. So I mentioned earlier that in the reverse osmosis process, the water is, I'll call it, pushed through the membrane using high-pressure pumps. And the water that is pushed through the membranes goes to the drinking water side, and the water that remains behind the membrane still has that energy in it. And over about a decade or so, there's been developed and perfected again an energy recovery system. It's called a pressure exchanger. What happens is it takes that high pressure salt stream and mixes it, or blends it, if you will, with the incoming seawater and exchanges the pressure from one side to the other. So you've recaptured almost all. It's 97% efficient, actually. It's a pretty interesting device. And there's no power supply to these energy exchangers. It's just the pressure of the water, and there's an impeller inside, and it exchanges the pressure from the high pressure side of the brine to the low pressure side of the incoming seawater. Now, if you drew a mass balance around this whole thing, you would learn that this is only applied to 50% of the water, because it's the brine that is being discharged back to the ocean that has this pressure in it. So you're effectively transferring the power to the incoming brine, 50% of it. That makes sense. And so, but a decade ago and more, longer than that, the specific energy consumption of reverse osmosis, pressure-driven membrane systems, has come down by about half over a decade, and you can imagine that it'll continue to come down. Now, there's a theoretical limit of pressure required to push salt water across a membrane. So we do many, many things at a plant like Carlsbad or SOREC in Israel, which you mentioned, which is the largest and most efficient desalination plant on the planet. It produces about 170 million gallons a day of water, and it's taken advantage of some interesting innovations, both in terms of membrane configuration and energy recovery configuration and energy utilization. So there's lots to be done. There's lots going forward, but the efficiencies are improving. So yes, it's energy intensive, but to put it in perspective, it's about, let's call it 12 kilowatt hours per 1,000 gallons of water produced. So if electricity is 7 cents a kilowatt hour, it's about $1 a 1,000 gallons of water, which, relatively speaking to other source waters, other available waters that you could purchase from either Metropolitan Water District or others, it's not a significant differential, and that will come down over time. And so, I mean, it's relative. I've shown a slide before at conferences where the amount of water, we talked about the amount of water that's consumed by a family of 4 at the beginning of the radio program, and the desalinated water being supplied to your house is the energy utilization is about the equivalent of running your refrigerator.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I got to say, if I was a junior or senior in high school and I'd heard your information shared here today, I said, well, what kind of, what should I major in college? What kind of people do you hire? What kind of technically competent people do a company like IDE hire? Can you kind of share that a little bit?
It's a great question, and don't let me forget to talk about particularly San Diego and Southern California. We look for the plant itself is staffed by an operations staff. So we've recently, a year ago or so, when we were getting ready to start beginning the commissioning process, we started staffing the entire plant. The skill sets in there range from some people have military backgrounds, and they'll come to a facility and they basically have a general mechanical understanding of how things work. Those type of people work really well. You can have had experience in water and wastewater from either a municipality. And so some of those disciplines on the operations side, I mean, it's math and science and technology, generally speaking, when you're working around fabrication, production facilities. On the selling side of the equation, if you will, we tend to look for people who typically they're civil engineers who get involved in the design and construction of a project. So we like to have civil engineers that speak the language with our consulting engineering, cohorts, if you will, or water authorities in general. Usually ends up being somewhat of a technical discussion. We hire finance people, so people who have background in finance, and maybe from that they, took some accounting classes. I'll fast forward maybe from high school to junior college or to college, but so it's the gamut. We need, we hire people, so we need human resources expertise. We are a marketing company, so we need marketing capabilities. Information gathering is very, very important for all water treatment processes, but certainly in the desalination plant, we live off of the information that's collected out on the site. So IT skills, general people skills. This is a people business at the end of the day where we're constantly interfacing with each other on a team. You're working on a team to get something done. You're working with customers. You're working with stakeholders. You're involved in the community. So it's everything. It crosses the whole gamut. What the listeners might be intrigued to know is that the reverse osmosis process itself was invented here in Southern California. The very first drop of water that ever came out of a reverse osmosis membrane was done at UCLA. And this was back in the 60s, and it was funded in part by our federal government. And really interesting to have been in the field for me in the water industry for 30 years, that now here we are finally 30 years later, where desalination has been deployed globally. There's 16,000 and something desalination plants all around the world. And here we are with the first significant size one here in California where the technology was invented. It's kind of a big complete circle back to the beginning, if you will, for all of us who have been in the industry here. And there's a significant number of companies that are headquartered here in Southern California that are involved in this space. So there's lots of jobs here.
I know you're familiar with a gentleman named Seth Siegel. And
yes, I am.
He's the author of the book, Let There Be Water, and we've had him on the show as well and been to several events with him. But in your opinion, because I know your background of the places you've been with U.S. Filter and and all that, when do you think the people in the U.S. are really going to get it like they did in Israel? Because, I mean, there's such a difference in mentality of when people use water here versus there or some other places. To me, people turn the water on here, it's not a big deal. They just turn it on and it's here and it works, and they don't think about the
It's, I think about this every day. I get asked about it every day. I've been on panels with Seth, and his book is very eye-opening and very enlightening. And one of the things that I learned, and I didn't know this before reading the book and then talking more, is one of the policy decisions that the state of Israel made is that the state of Israel owns all the water. They made that policy decision a day or more ago that they would own all the water and could therefore set a single price for water of its various forms. Now, if you transfer that to a state like California, where I think I heard quoted that there are 4,500 water agencies, both small and large, all with their own independent concept of how things should work in their local area, and with water rights history that goes way, way back, which sets a whole spectrum of what water pricing looks like. I think there's a huge gap that needs to be filled there. And as I said earlier, the whole concept of the price of water versus the value of water is being talked about more. I talk about it a lot when I'm out speaking with stakeholders, that if you can go and look up how much water it takes to make all the goods and services that we do, whether it's agriculture or manufactured products or cars or food sources, et cetera. And if you start to think about, well, how much water went into that, and therefore what should I pay for the value of that water to better equate to the value of the product or service, I think that's the mindset that has to change. And I think it is changing. I wouldn't say that it isn't. But you're right. I mean, I get up in the morning, I turn on my tap, I brush my teeth, I turn it off now while I'm brushing. We're pretty water conservative mindset in our house, and I'm sure almost everybody is. Everybody I talk to now generally is aware of what's going on. So are we ever going to get to how Israel has done it? I don't know, but getting there piece by piece and learning the lessons of places like Israel and Singapore, by the way, who recycles the majority of their water. San Diego Pure program is on an aggressive goal to recycle and reuse water. So, it's happening. I like to say we live in the water age now, and it's all about water and the water energy nexus, but it takes water to make goods and services, and we're going to be serious problems without it.
Right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk with us, and I'm sure our listeners now know a whole lot more about what's happening down in the
you and I know a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I was amazed when you said there were 16,000 desal plants. So I never knew that. That's incredible.
I appreciate the time tonight, and I hope that if your listeners have questions, I'm sure they can funnel them back to you, or maybe we can do this again.
Okay. And if they want to go to your website to learn more about your company, how do they do that?
My website is www.idetech.com.
Excellent.
And there are plenty of online resources to learn about desalination generally, the companies that are involved and the mechanisms that are used to put the processes in place. So I would encourage an eager listener to do lots of background research, and of course they'll come across IDE, but it isn't just about IDE. It's about the evolution of an industry looking for desalination as to be one of our bullets in our toolkit, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to ask one quick last question. That is, now that the Carlsbad plant is operational and people see it and understand more about the way it's been able to effectively produce water, do you think other cities in California, when they do make a decision to invest in desal technology, that there would be fewer lawsuits and it'll be easier or less cumbersome to get all the approvals that are necessary, or do you think it's going to be the same fight over and over?
This is California.
Yeah.
Employers.
I think it becomes easier. I really do. You have to have had the demonstration or the proof, if you will, or fact that desalination plant here in Carlsbad. I'm looking across the street at it, by the way. I'm sitting here in my office and looking across the street at the facility. So here it is. It's a piece of constructed plant. It takes water in. It produces safe, clean drinking water out. There are public tours that you can sign up for a public tour on Poseidon's website, in fact. And so you can come and see it. And my point is once you touch and feel it and you taste the water and you see that it's a regular part of our community and the Water Authority is very thankful for it, and it hasn't rained anytime recently and doesn't look like it's going to rain anytime soon, I think it becomes sort of a certain type of option that municipalities in small or large cities up and down the California coast can now look to and say they're not the guinea pigs, so to speak. I mean, it's not that this was, because the technology was so proven globally. We just brought know-how from elsewhere and perfected it here. So, yes, I think to answer your question, there still are the regular permitting requirements that have to take place. There's drinking water permits. We have to comply with all the state drinking water regulations. And so that process is very thorough and very well laid out and very well understood now. And so, you'll still have to go through the permitting process, but I don't see, this fuzzy black hole that people call desal and it's a bad thing. I don't see this happening because if you're curious, you can drive down the 5 freeway and come to San Diego and see the thing.
Right. Well, again, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights with us. And thanks again, Mark.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back to the Water Zone with Mike and Rob on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Stand by for our next person, which is the DIY Sprinkler Guy.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
Hey, we're back to the Water Zone with Mike and Rob on KCA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. And it's time for our DIY sprinkler guy, Richard Daigle.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
There we go. Got his mic on now.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you, but nobody else can. Mike, can you hear him? Oops, I think Mike's gone. But anyway, hi, Richard.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're doing good.
Wow.
Hey, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Well, I brought a little product today. It's a very simple product. And if you can see inside, if you're watching it on video, it's a little flush cross. It's made by a little company called Valvet. And what's nice is it's very reasonably priced. And I have a Toro 570 here, and I can screw it right in.
Which is a spray head for people who don't know what that is.
So it's a spray head. And so if you have a spray head in your house, around your yard, and you say, hey, you know what, I need to flush the system, check my nozzles, and when I do check my nozzles and change them, I need to be able to put something on, flush it, and then put it back on my plant material. You don't want to flush it and have it go down the curb or anything like that, or go over the sidewalk. You want to flush it, run the hose, and put it back in the planter area. So it's really nice. You can see it here. It's very simple to use. It screws right into the male part or female part on one side. So it has a little screwdriver. It has a little adjustable tool to flush out the irrigation. Mike knows this product as well.
Absolutely, and it's I'm sometimes get surprised at how it's just not a standard item in every toolbox for maintenance and repair sprinkler folks, because you got to know what your operating pressure is at the head if you really want to fine-tune the system for optimal efficiency.
And you should let the listeners know that from the first head to the last head online, you should be plus or minus 10%.
Yes, absolutely.
Of the pressure. Yep.
And it has a little spot on the side that you can put a hose on, which in turn means you can put a little pressure gauge. So you can pick these up, at any irrigation distributor, put a pressure gauge on it. And when you are checking out your nozzles, you want to make sure that you have at least 30 PSI, really no more than that, so you can keep the misting down on the sprinkler head itself.
And sometimes it's real handy to have that tool, because when you go out on a site, you might find toro heads, you might find rainbird heads, you might find hunter heads, you might find some weathermatic heads, and no matter which of those heads you find, that flush and cross will let you access the pop-up stem and do your measurements and do your flushing.
Yes, absolutely. I used it in a class on Tuesday. We did an audit over in the Corona area for a large place where there's Lowe's, and it's called Renco. And when we were going from station to station, there were like 17 heads, sprinkler heads, on the lawn, and 9 of them were clogged. And so we were able to just twist this on and be able to turn it off, turn it on, flush out all the stuff, tap the nozzle down, clean the nozzle, make sure that it worked, turn it off and on with our remote, and then fine-tune the system with a screwdriver on top, and then the little angle valve on the top there. So I'm showing it up right now, so you can always go to the channel and check it out and see the product. And it's available at any of your Site Ones, Ewing, most of your standard turf distributors.
Now, Richard, do you have those also on a YouTube for what you do for Irrigator Tech?
Yes, we do have it on our YouTube, which is Green Industry News, and you can go there and then check it out. And then as well, if you're as a consumer and you want to check this out and you say, hey, this is about $10, $12 to have one, and it's really nice to have at your house and be able to adjust everything, especially on the shrub bodies. So you can go to any distributor and get one, very reasonably priced. If you go to, there's a company called Sprinkler Warehouse, Irrigation Warehouse, and if you just go online and say that you've heard about it on this show, that they'll give you a $25 credit on their account, and you could get one of these for free. So that means that you've heard about it by listening to this channel, and that you can get one of these at no cost to you, and that you can be using this product on all your Toro product out there in the field.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's a good deal.
So that's a great deal and really nice. So just because the head is not shooting up in the air and broken doesn't mean that it's not being efficient. So when you check it and you say, hey, it's not shooting up in the air, but is the right nozzle on? Are there insects or any dirt, Teflon tape, or anything else in that? You may want to use one of these little flush crosses and then check it out, and it's at your local distributor. So it works out really nice, and you'll see that it flushes it out, and you're not wasting any water at all.
Well, that could be a big money saver for people. People never realize if they just go back. I know you guys consistently tell everybody, where you can start saving money is making sure your system operates correctly. And the maintenance of that is important. Obviously, the design, the installation, but the maintenance afterwards is really, really important.
Oh, absolutely. When we do audits in the field, we're checking out stuff with our students, going to projects, and people let us use their locations to do an audit and check it out. You need the right tools to be able to check everything. And just the smallest things, nothing, scientifically or anything, just clogged nozzles, misadjust nozzles not working. We had a van adjustable nozzle that was on a quarter, and it just filled up, and we put another catch can there. In the same amount of time, you could just see that the minor adjustments on that by changing it to a fixed nozzle. The next time when we ran the station for 10 minutes, it just tremendously made it more even from the first head to the last head.
Well, that's what people need.
Yeah, the days of just being able to let water run over the curb and down the gutter, water your sidewalk, water your driveway, and not worry about ever changing your sprinkler timer because water was so cheap. Those days are really just about over. And with the focus on reducing water waste, use of higher pricing on the water we buy, all of that has an impact.
Well, Mike knows the story. Richard knows the story because he was here last week when I received this frantic call from my wife about a water burst in our house, in our attic.
Yes. Oh, wow. Was that something?
Yeah, $40,000 worth of damage. And, it started Thursday when she came home. She saw it, and it was tons of water in some bedrooms and the laundry room and in the garage. And first, aside from having the plumbers come and stay there for 6.5 hours and then ServPro come and do the work on the next day, and they're still there today. One of the things people should know, if you have a major water leak or a burst or anything like that, call your water agency and let them know, because most of you are in the tiered rates.
Absolutely.
Billing. And if you don't tell them that something happened, they'll just think you're a big water waster, and they're going to jack it on your bill. And you're going to pay double, triple, quadruple. And so I called my city utilities and told them what happened. They said they'll put a note on that. And then I thought about it, but they had all these 5 dehumidifiers and a dozen of these powerful blowers. They've been on since Friday, and they're louder than you can believe.
Wow.
You can't sleep. And they keep breaking the circuits in my house, break the circuit breakers. But that's the same thing, too. You should call the utilities and say, hey, look at all the electricity you're using. It's one thing in the summer if you refill your pool. They take that into account for your tiered rates. But if you got a major water break or leak, anything, you really should let them know. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting on your bill when it comes.
Yes, and they'll normally look at something like that once, maybe twice, and make sure that if an accident like that happens and you report it, they'll take that in consideration, knowing that it's an emergency.
Good. Well,
and when we found that water agencies, bend over backwards to want to help customers, they're not out there to be punitive. They want to help each one of us be more efficient with water. So I think, Rob, you've done the right thing, and you're going to avoid those frightening bills that might have happened had you not called the water agency.
Right. Well, hopefully they're going to watch that note when it comes in. Anyway, we're just about running out of time. I want to tell you, everybody, who our next guest is for next week. It's a gentleman named Andy Lipkiss. He's the president and CEO of an organization called the Tree People, and they're a pretty big organization in California, and he's going to talk about trees and the importance of that, and how water is important to that. So you can join us next week for that. So again, appreciate everybody listening in on the Waterzone, and we'll all see you next week. Mike, you have a great time. You're going to be wrapping up, and don't forget, people, tomorrow at the Western Municipal Water District for their Earth Night at the Garden event, and have a nice weekend. And I hope it rains Friday.
Thank you
Friday
all.
night after our event.
Thank you for listening.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Keith Langlots for tonight. Partly cloudy, low 53. West winds gusting as high as 25. Daytime Friday, partly sunny, warming up 78. Winds gusting as high as 25 out of the west again. Now for Friday night, a slight chance of showers. Partly cloudy, low 53.